Jimmy, you ready?
It's 5:15.
All right. It is 5:15 on Thursday, the day after tax day, April 16th, 2015. And I am calling this special meeting to order. Can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Asher.
Here.
Councilmember Donahue. Do we know if he's expected?
We don't know.
Okay. Councilmember Martinez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Here.
And Mayor Atkin.
Here. So you get 4 or 5 of us tonight. We have one item on the agenda. So is there any public comment? I see this, it's wide open.
I don't see any public.
All right. Catherine, you were first out of your chair. Are you doing the report?
I am.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Atkin and council members. My name is Catherine Ferpa. I'm the housing coordinator with the Community Development Department. Today we're here to get approval for the DDA, this resolution, which is a DDA between EAH Housing and the city for the 3706 San Pablo 1025 West MacArthur housing site. It's on San Pablo Avenue between MacArthur Boulevard and 37th Street. It's vacant except for an existing outdoor billboard, which will be removed prior to construction. This is the site plan for the proposed project. In June of 2014, EAH and the city entered into an exclusive right to negotiate agreement for this project, and on January 22nd, 2015, the Planning Commission approved the conditional use permit and design review. A project description, it's 6 stories, about 7,000 square feet of commercial on San Pablo, 87 residential units, rental units. There's 86 are restricted to low-income households, low and very low. There's 1 manager's unit, that's a 3-bedroom unit. 4 units are proposed for special needs, and perhaps more if there's additional funding for that. On-site residential services and management are included. There's 108 space structured parking after all the planning, getting through the planning entitlements. We're at 108 spaces of structured parking. There's a courtyard on the podium, 4th floor roof patio, active and passive children's play equipment. There's an on-site management office, resident services office, and community rooms, which you can see the design for here. This is the courtyard with the active and passive play equipment for children. The unit distribution has 5% studios, 9% 1-bedrooms, 52% 2-bedrooms, 26% 3-bedrooms, and 8% 4-bedrooms. The affordability is 30% of the units will be reserved for people at 30% of the area median, 10% of units will be for people at 40% of the area median, 41% will be at 50% of the area median, and 19% will be at 60% of the area median. Jumped ahead. The costs are the acquisition costs, hard costs about $32 million, soft cost about $8 million, developer fee of about $1.4 million, and some financing fees to total us at nearly $46 million for this project. The permanent source of funds are the land value, which is what the city is bringing to this deal. There's quite a few funding sources. I was actually just in a conference that said the average number of funding sources for affordable housing project is 14. With our construction funding sources, I believe we're at 15 or 16 at this point, and we're going to be coming in with on May 5th with another hopeful funding source, a grant source. So you'll be seeing some grant funding proposals in the future to get us to where we need to be. The developer obligations under this DDA are to construct a residential rental unit with 87 units, to submit a funding application to TCAC for no later than July 2017, to provide the city with evidence of TCAC approval by October 2017, and prior to closing, securing all the approvals for the development, which is the including the building permit. In addition, they have to sign a ground lease, which is one of the things is attached to this DDA, to commence construction no later than 60 days after the closing of escrow. And EHH is leasing this from us in an as-is condition, and they're required to enforce the affordability restrictions for 55 years. Under the agency's obligation are to lease the site to the developer for $1 for those 55 years of affordability. And prior to the close of escrow and ground lease, the city will implement the site cleanup plan approved by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. As part of this DDA, we actually developed a report that's required under a redevelopment law called the Section 33433 report, which showed that with the affordability requirements that the land is not worth more than $1 a year, and it shows that the covenants and conditions that we were putting on it actually create a
negative balance.
A negative land value. With that, we asked you to approve the disposition development agreement.
All right, well, this is actually a public hearing, so before I open the public hearing, are there any questions for staff from council?
Can we hear from EAH, just briefly? Any comments?
You want to do your presentation? Well, probably not the whole thing.
Zip through it.
It's pretty. Wait, this is not a. How do you turn it into a slide?
33 slides.
It's not a PowerPoint. It's a PDF.
Full screen mode. Oh, full screen mode. God, there's so much.
I can't see it.
Here, and hit that button.
Well, while you're doing that, I have a separate question.
Thank you. And this button.
Okay.
But before EAH comes up, I have a separate question, which is the TCAC meeting, that tax committee. Does it make sense for Emeryville to make a personal and in-person appeal for that application?
No, it's not done in a public hearing in any way. It's a NOFA, notice of funding availability, and then it goes through the process. There's no. I mean, we will actually sign. We actually review the TCAC proposal. So the developer puts the TCAC proposal into HCD, the tax credit, and then they send it to us, and we actually review it and approve it and send it back and send that approval back to them. So that's sort of the process.
Okay, I only ask because I had the experience when Bay Street was under construction for the housing portion that the bond issuance for that, they wanted a phase, and they wanted to issue half of the bonds and then come back for another, and because of the complicating factors around the construction, you couldn't really phase a project like that. So we went up, the city manager and I went up in person and gave an appeal, and we were told that's the first time anybody's ever shown up in person, but we got the whole bond issuance at that time, and we didn't have to run through this like infeasible, impractical phasing thing.
And that was a 4% credit. It was with SIDLAC, not TCAC, so it's actually slightly different, right?
I mean, it's a bond issuance, and we're not talking about that exactly here, but it's a different thing. But just sometimes going to Sacramento and having FaceTime will strengthen an application. So I'm just wondering if that makes sense. But
maybe Mary can answer that question.
Okay.
I have a question for Catherine.
Okay. Now?
Yeah,
okay.
Can I ask?
Okay, wait. Sorry, Mary.
Sorry, Mary, yeah. I had
Jack has another question.
I had a question about this, reading the staff report. So I'm on page 4 of 7, and one of the bullets about little more than halfway down, says enforce affordability restrictions of 65 units at 50% of median income and 21 units at 60% of median income for 55 years pursuant to the Affordable Housing Covenant. So then what happens to the ones that are at 30%? Those are where? And how long is that for?
They're nested within,
Stand at the microphone.
I'm sorry, they're nested within the other affordability. And actually, that's, you know, Matt and Felix could address this more articulately than I can. I brought along 2 financing experts here, but that in order to compete effectively for the tax credits,
Right.
We will be required to provide a tranche of units at that level.
And that is, and then the covenant says that that's required for 55 years?
Yes, under tax credits, we're going to commit to that.
Okay, great, yeah.
accurate, Matt?
That's, okay, thank you for that. Yeah.
Deep in here.
Yeah, when I read later on, I noticed that it was part of the discussion, but it just wasn't in the summary, and so I just wanted to clarify that.
And responding to your question, Mayor Atkin, we'd really appreciate your enthusiasm and willingness to go to Sacramento. And regrettably, the way the tax credits work is that there's so much competition for so little resource
Exactly.
that they have this all nailed down to a angels dancing on the head of a pin scoring system. And regrettably, you going there would have very little impact, but we'd still be delighted if you would like to make the trip.
Okay.
They probably never see anybody besides developers showing up to these meetings, but
All right.
thanks for the vote of confidence implicitly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an important project to us, too. We really want to get this done. Okay, so
Well,
we
I
have
have
a few.
a question for
Oh,
you,
please
Mary.
go ahead.
There's very generous timelines here. Best case, you know, given the underlying pulling together all these pieces of funding, when can we expect to see this building ready for occupancy?
Well, it's actually harder now than it ever was, and we were just.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
it's really difficult.
not-
So actually, I'm going to ask Matt to work on that question, because one of the issues that all the affordable housing developers face is that we're only allowed to apply for each little piece of financing. There's one window you have to apply, with the exception of tax credits when there's 2, and you have to get all of the sources of funding pulled together before you're allowed to apply for tax credits. So if that happens a month after the deadline for the first shot at that during the year, you have to wait for the second, et cetera. It's just a Byzantine system. We've already done some good fundraising on this and identified 2 good sources totaling, I believe, $3 million, Matt, and we still do have a gap, but I'm gonna let Matt.
And Mary, is that $2 million from Oakland secure? Do we have it in our hand?
Got it right here.
Very good. So the check is not in the mail, it's in our hand.
Yeah, well, not quite, but it's legally committed. Sorry, I'm not speaking in the mic.
Ms. Davis, Matt Steinley, Vice President of Real Estate Development for EH. With respect to your question about the best case scenario would be that we would get a tax credit reservation in the second cycle of 2016, which would generally, hopefully, permit us to start construction in November of 2016. That is the best case. We do still have a financing gap, and we're working assiduously on trying to eliminate it, but it could result in coming close to the maximum time frame
So
allowed.
let us assume that best case is going to work for us. We've had luck in the past, so let's keep our fingers
Let's
crossed.
hope.
Let us assume fall 16, November 16, something like that. How many years then to build the 2 years to build it?
No. I'd like to ask Felix to speak to the question of where we are with our discussions with L&D on the probable time from the notice to proceed to substantial completion. It should be around 18 months. And
Say again?
Around 18 months.
Even better.
And then we typically, there's a process after we get, the certificate of occupancy from the city that we have to go through for the leasing. We start about 6 months early, but we typically allow for projects of this kind about 4 months to get to call it sustaining occupancy or 95% lease up. From that time, we like to beat it. I think we will beat it for a project as lovely as this is going to be, but that's typical.
It's a beautiful project. Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
So Felix is here also. Felix So Young, who's been the project manager, and I want to be respectful of your time. You guys were very nice to come out and have a special meeting to help us get this DDA done so we can make a deadline for a funding application.
Of course.
So we don't want to keep you here past dinner time. We do have some slides we could show you. If you'd like to see them, we can zip through those. But the main thing I wanted to say was just thank you so much for coming out for the special hearing, because I know you guys have other things to do besides go to meetings. And we already talked about the fact that we still do have a gap, and we've lined up some funding. And Felix may have one or other two things to say, but I did want to mention, following up on our discussion, Mayor Atkin, about going to Sacramento, there is one area where the city can make a huge difference, and that is to support Tony Atkins, Speaker Atkins' package of affordable housing bills as vociferously as you can manage. Unleash the lobbyists along with the hounds, send them to Sacramento. I think this is our best shot in many years to get funding through that Mayor Brown isn't going to oppose. He apparently is very respectful of Speaker Atkins, and so now's the moment.
Okay. So with that, I
Yield the mic to Felix.
Is the public hearing open?
if there's no more questions of the applicant and the staff, public meeting's open. Come forth and speak. I'll give you 30 minutes each.
Don't make that deal, someone's gonna pop up.
Gone. The public hearing is closed.
Resolution, wonderful, wonderful project. Let's get on it.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
May I say one thing?
Made a motion.
Oh, sorry.
On page 2 of 3, where the 1, 2, 3, 4th whereas, it says an EAH will develop an 8-7 instead of 87. Can we just make that 87?
In the resolution?
In the resolution, yeah, page 2 of 3.
You send them, Catherine.
So just
Which is it?
the whereas, it says 8-7
8-.
instead of 87.
It's the fourth whereas.
Can we just, a little typo.
Why there?
Yeah, we need a Y there, that's all.
Okay.
Otherwise, second the motion.
Okay. With that edit, we need to call the roll. We can't just do this by acclamation. So please call the roll.
Councilmember Donahue.
Yes.
Councilmember Asher.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Councilmember Martinez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Aye.
And Mayor Atkin.
Aye. With that, this meeting is adjourned.
Pretty good, Ruth.
Hey.
Would you like to see some pictures now that we're adjourned?